We're all right. All right, everyone. I'm going to get us live on LinkedIn and we're rolling.
Happy Friday, guys. Hey, thank you, Dan. Feel the love. We had some technical issues, but man, we're conquering it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Yeah,
Yay.
No doubt. Welcome, everyone, again to the Manufacturing E-Commerce Success Series. We're here on Friday like we always are in my world on the West Coast. It's 10:32. We try to do 10:32. We were a minute late today, but we're getting off today. We're going to be talking about Google Core Web Vitals and why they matter. And I'm going to turn this over to my co-host, Curt Anderson. If you're first of all, real quick, as I forgot, as I usually do, if you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're listening from. If you got questions, I'm looking at it over here and Curt's taking care of things over here. If you're in Remo, hit the chat like you are and have some fun with it. Let's get going, Curt.
Hey guys, happy Friday, man. Damon, how are things on the West Coast, brother? You good? I got things covered on the East Coast. So hey, 1:30, Dan, we're a minute late, but here we are. So happy Friday. It's the last Friday of August. Can you believe it? This is insane how fast 2021 is going by. So guys, I want to welcome my dear friend, Mark Hill. He's in near Chicago. Greg, Gary's a New Yorker. We got Chris Harrington, Kevin from Gen Alpha, Don up in Alaska. And of course, our love goes to Dan Bigger. So guys, we have an amazing, incredible show. So let's get the intros going here first. Then we're going to dig into a hardcore topic. Did you get that? Did you see what I did there, Erin? Hardcore. Huh? Okay. Guys, Erin, Courtney, Dan Landman from Earthling Interactive from the great state of Wisconsin. Erin, I'll start with you. Hello. Happy Friday, my friend.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we are thrilled. Eric, welcome, my friend. How are you? You're Wisconsinite as well. So happy Friday.
Yep. Thanks, Curt.
Well, let's do a little intro here. So we've got Erin. Erin, fascinating journey. I think things started at New Mexico State. Do I have that? Like, who went to New Mexico State? Ended up at University of Wisconsin. Went to University of Wisconsin, got your master's degree, big copywriting degree, field, career, treehugger.com, all sorts of fun, exciting things. You now find yourself, you are an e-commerce pioneer at Earthling Interactive. Just share a little bit about yourself, what's going on with you in your world.
Oh, thanks, Curt. Well, I do have one thing I want to share. Nothing to do with this. My little girl had her last day at preschool today. She's starting kindergarten. I know your last guest was sending a kiddo off to college. So I know we do a little personal, and that's my thing today. I'll try not to cry. Yeah. So I hail from the great state of New Mexico. It's the land of enchantment. And then I moved on up here to America's Dairyland, and I have just found Madison to be a wonderful community to live in. I worked in conservation and communications for a long time and then settled over here at Earthling primarily because of the awesome people that I get to work with and all the smart folks that help our clients do the digital transformation, but make it something that everyone can attain. So e-commerce, super important part of digital transformation, kind of touches all the points. And it's a great privilege to work with Eric as well, because his knowledge is so deep.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So Eric, we're going to slide over to you, sir. And so long time graphic career. You are a Magento specialist, I believe, e-commerce pioneer. Talk a little bit about your role, what you've got going on in your world at Earthling Interactive.
Sure. Before I start, do you know the definition of a pioneer?
I'm not sure. It just means you're cool and hip.
He's the guy with the arrows in his back.
Oh!
Yeah.
But no, we persevere. So anyway,
in the back, the settlers reap the land. That's how that goes. You're reaping the land with e-commerce. So share a little bit about what you have.
Sure. Well, my name is Eric Landman. I'm the e-commerce division manager of Earthling Interactive. We build e-commerce sites for both B2B and B2C clients. Quite a variety of clients, no particular type of business. I've personally been involved in building out over 50 e-commerce sites on lots of platforms. The ones we tend to use nowadays are Magento, Shopify, and a couple of other little ones or other ones. I'm also a Magento certified solution specialist and a developer by trade. So that's what I do.
Awesome. This is fantastic. And guys, what I think I dropped them in already. So I dropped yes, I did in the beginning. So I dropped both of their LinkedIn profiles. So guys, you want to connect with Erin, you want to connect with Eric. Erin, I love your title. You are the digital empathy practitioner. I absolutely love that. And one thing I want to share, guys, if you get a chance, I dropped into their website. You want to check out their website. It is, for companies that are digging into e-commerce for the first time. Again, they're Magento experts. Eric mentioned Shopify. But what I love, Erin, I don't know if you know this, I love your Meet the Team page. I actually have as you know, maybe some of you know or don't know, Damon and I do a ton of webinars. Damon was at Temple University this week, but we do a ton of webinars. I actually have a screenshot of your team of how to put out a great Meet the Team page.
Really?
It is it's personal. You make it fun. It's friendly. It's like you want to do business with these guys. And a couple other things that I want to share. So you have some great testimonials on your website. I just wanted to share with everybody real quick. Our website took on an amazing leap thanks to Earthling Interactive. The answer to every question was, yes, we can do that. Another comment was, they made our project great due to the tight collaboration. Earthling brought our vision to life. And the last comment was, Earthling made our website dreams come true. And what Damon and I, what we love to do is like on our Monday, we actually started a little Monday program. We call it Dream Supporters. And that's what we admire, respect, and why you're here today is that you are dream supporters, helping entrepreneurs. They're not in a silo. They're not alone. This e-commerce thing is daunting, overwhelming. Folks like you are out there, experts that will help them on that journey to go through that path. So let's just dig right into, and Dan Bigger says, stop smiling so much. Erin, doesn't she have a wonderful smile? Man, it just warms your heart. No, don't listen to Dan. Don't listen to Dan. So, all right. So for any of you out there this week, if you were like me, losing sleep, losing hair over Google Core Vitals, right? I know Greg missed you. I know you're out there, had a great head of hair, but I know he's losing sleep over, and Paul is with us today, Paul Kishay. So I know you guys are worried about Google Core Vitals. Erin, do you know anything about Google Core Vitals? What's going on here?
I have all my hair, so I've learned a lot.
Don't let this happen to you.
Yeah, don't let that happen to you.
It's not pretty, man.
I think it's smashing on you. Anyway, it's funny that you should ask about Google Core Vitals because I've been doing a lot of learning myself, getting ready for this conversation. And what my main takeaway is, this could seem really tedious and overwhelming unless you sort of understand why these things even exist. Even the name Google Core Vitals, I mean, that sounds like, I don't want to touch it. That's weird or boring. But I want to tell you a little story, give you a little analogy. Those are my favorites. So is anybody here? You can raise your hand in the chat if you want. You remember Yellow Pages? Dating myself. Remember that? Yellow Pages? Yeah. And do you remember how you'd go to look up a service and you'd be like, A1 Acme Dry Cleaning? And that's what's known as early stage SEO, search engine optimization. They were optimizing for the search. That means they want to be number one so that you would call them. And that's kind of how the SEO game really started out, was just figuring out a few key ways to get your listings to show up on those search pages. Well, Google's kind of smarter than that now. They're really, really invested in helping you find what you need, not just servicing the companies that pay to get their listing up on Google. So this is where we come into Google Core Vitals. What that is a sort of a set of metrics to help Google identify where your site is in terms of what they think will make a customer happy. So Google's customer is the user. It's also the people paying for the sites, but it's for the ads, but it's the user. They want the user to be happy. So they're looking at your website. Are you going to make people happy when we suggest that they go look at your website? And so that's where the Google Core Vitals come in. They're an objective set of metrics designed to help Google understand how well you're playing the website satisfaction game. how happy are you making your customers or your users when they go to your website? That's essentially what it is. And so why Google Core Vitals has sort of elevated to, all of our awareness now is because Google made an announcement. Hey, look, folks, we're going to be incorporating this Google Core Vitals business into your SEO. So get on board. And I'm here to tell you, it's both simpler and much more complicated than it sounds. And so before I, pass the mic over to Eric, I want to remind you of a few key things. So as you're watching him, 1, these are guideposts. Google Core Vitals are guideposts to help you determine if you're playing the Google game properly. But sometimes those things, and oftentimes, will conflict with some things that your users really need. So Google knows kind of like generally what the population is looking for, what is helpful for a website user, but they don't understand, for example, if you're going to Curt's site, you might be a very particular type of individual looking for a very particular, one of his events or something. And you know exactly what you're looking for. And the way you get there might not fit in the Google Core Vitals. So there are case scenarios often that fall outside, but you want to make sure that your website is at least paying attention to those key metrics that will help get your site ranked, because those are the things that Google can quickly and easily incorporate in their algorithm to determine your ranking. So there's customer happiness, which has some, an Venn diagram overlap with the Google Core Vitals, but also pay attention to what your customers want and need. And if your conversions as an e-commerce site are just rocking it and they're awesome and your score on your Google Core Vitals is like in the toilet, don't worry about it. Your job is to make money. You want to pay attention to those Google Core Vitals, but you do not want to mess up your conversions by trying to play the Google game and not keeping your customers happy. So basically, keep in mind, this is a great guidepost to know what to do to make your website work the Google game, but it's not the be all end all. So that's just a little warning.
I think that's a great point though, too, because it's the same thing in SEO when you're trying to optimize a page for readability. I mean, if you're talking about the laser application of some blah, 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 splitting atoms, I mean, it's just not going to come out. The readability score is going to stink, right?
Right.
Your reader that's going to enjoy that content needs that kind of depth in it, and a similar thing. But that's a cool distinction between the vitals and not just paying attention. I do also want to say too, we do have some technical difficulties as Remo, and Eric is worked around it a little bit. So we can't share a screen like we wanted to, but he's got some good things to show us with a little workaround that we're doing.
And who would make Google Core Vitals more fun than Erin? Erin, that was just a little. What a great job! Let's give a little virtual applause for Erin.
Where's my music? Now I got to do my dance.
So, Erin, we're talking ZZ Top before. So, Erin, by chance, did you guys happen to bring a little demo for the crowd today?
It's funny you should ask, because we did. At least, I hope we did. We had those technical difficulties. But Eric, what do you think about walking folks through those Google Core Vitals and just kind of trying to demystify a little bit of what we're talking about today?
I think we can do that. Let's see if the technology cooperates. It should.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
We did test this out already.
If not, Erin and I were doing karaoke.
I wanted to show you what the page actually looks like to give you a visual, but if you want to hit that URL, it's what this site is a category page for one of my customers that sells sailboards. It's a B2C site. They have a high turnover product, and it's really an interesting site. What we're looking at here is one of the free available tools that Google has produced. This is called Page Speed Insights. If you want to find this, you just go to Google and type page speed and you'll get the link. It'll be the topmost link. And if you click that, the way this works, it's very straightforward. You can do this to your own site. It doesn't require any special developer mojo or anything. You just go to the box here and type in your URL, and it will do some analysis. It will check lots of metrics. It'll measure all kinds of not only page speed, but how the page is built. It'll look up. It'll process things like DNS lookups for resources that aren't on the site. It'll just run hundreds and hundreds of tests, and then it will return this type of page here. This page has, so what we're looking at it as a page analysis of this specific page on Insights. It's got two parts to it. There's a mobile score and there's a desktop score. And notice that they're pretty different, and that's actually not unusual. Usually there's quite a bit of a difference between mobile and desktop. And one of the reasons it's surmised, although the thing about Google is they don't always tell you how they're doing things. So that we surmise the reason the mobile is a lot lower is frequently a mobile user is on a lot slower network connection. So you want to super optimize absolutely everything. So some things that might not at all be a problem on a desktop system, all of a sudden are going to be a problem on a mobile setup. So let me go through the pieces of this report. First of all, you have a number there. You see it's nice, happy gold color. Google considers anything over a 75 to be acceptable for Core Web Vitals. So you can see that we're doing really good on desktop, not so good on mobile. And it will give you suggestions for what things you can change. The results then are, there's two chunks of data. If you're dealing with a site that doesn't have much data, notice that this says field data here. This is actual data that's been collected by Google about the Core Web Vitals for real users hitting this page. Google's watching this stuff, so they collect all this data. And so what you see here is, it looks a little weird. You've got some color bars in one of these areas, but not the other areas. And that simply means that Google doesn't have enough data on it. So then the second part is the lab data. And lab data are Google's synthetic tests about what they think, there's what they surmise a good user experience will be. So the whole purpose here is to produce the best user experience. Now, I'll talk to you about these four categories of data that we're seeing and what they mean. They're a little bit geeky titled, but they're somewhat understandable. So the first contentful paint means, when you go to a website and kind of nothing happens, and then, something pops up on the screen. Right at that point, that is the first contentful paint. You're seeing some content. That's the first thing here. So this is saying that it took 3.6 seconds. It's a little on the slow side, but not too bad for a category page. And if you look up that category page, you will see that there's some content, a couple of videos. I think there's about 7 or so product thumbnails and descriptions and pricing. So there's, it's a fairly rich page. The second one that matters is the one to the right, which is called first input delay. What that means is a lot of people like to go to a site and then they immediately do something. They click a search box, or they roll over a navigation, or they click something. They want to go somewhere else. That is called an input, user input. So this measures the time that it takes for the page to load and the user can actually click on something. But first, so this is 6 milliseconds, which is like nothing at all. That's basically immediate. What this is saying is almost immediately, as soon as the page loads, the user can do something. And that's cool because suppose the user, in this case, might be buying a sailboard. They may have already been to the site. They may know exactly what category they want to go to. So the page will start to load. They'll select a category, then they'll zip off somewhere else. That's a good user experience because the user wants to cruise through the site really fast. They can do it. The third thing that matters most in the Google hierarchy is called cumulative layout shift. That means everybody's seen this before. You start to load a web page and then something happens, it gets all jacked around and jiggered and it bounces, and then maybe a slider comes in or some testimonials panel or logos start moving around. That's called layout shift. That, in Google's eyes, and most people that I know, think that's a really kind of jarring experience, sort of disruptive. Google will ding you then if your layout shifts around, if you start to load it and then it jumps around a lot. This is a really super common thing. By the way, I want to throw one little number for you. It's the latest estimate I read, I think a week or two ago, was that 4% of the websites on the web pass Core Web Vitals. So don't be all freaked out if your site scores really bad, because you're in good company. So that's what cumulative layout shift is. So those are some basic numbers. They give you some nice little colored bars, and they give you a score, and that's pretty understandable. Then it gets into reporting what the evaluations were for these various categories. They give you this little film strip of how the page loads, so that what they're doing is they're actually grabbing screenshots as the page loads. And there's another little tool you can do to actually save this as a little video, which is kind of cool. So if you're somebody like me doing optimization, you can record a before and after. You can say, well, here's when we started, here's what it looked like. And then when we do the optimizations, get our work done, we record it again. And we can show how much improved it is. Then it comes back to you with suggestions on how to solve some of these problems. And they're saying, these are very specific, usually developer-centric solutions. Your average site owner is going, minify JavaScript, I don't know how to do that. Not surprising. It requires usually some sort of server configuration or extension on the site to compress it. But it does show you what you could save if you do this. Now, there are some caveats to this information. They're making some assumptions that, you just compress it and it'll be good to go. Well, that's almost never the case. Developer in me says, oh, hold it. It's never that simple. Because there can be problems where JavaScripts aren't loaded in the right order and then your page does screwy things. And so, yeah, these are recommendations, like Erin said. They're not always right or appropriate for the platform you're using. So that's an example of a recommendation. Here's another one. They're saying, you're loading these web fonts. That WFF2 is a font. In this case, I think it's Open Sans. Yeah, Open Sans. So that's the font that's being used on this site. It's being loaded from fonts.gstatic.com. Well, it's saying, you could do this slightly differently. That would save you 20 milliseconds. 20 milliseconds. That's pretty much nothing. That's almost literally the blink of an eye. But if you add up 50 or 75 speed tweaks to this page, it will add up. And some things you can do are much, much more productive. So when we developers do this, we look for the low-hanging fruit. We look to see what's on top of the list here to clean it up. And then we do those first, and then we run another analysis and see what happened. Now, the other kind of maddening thing about this particular test is if you run this 3 or 4 times, you'll get 3 or 4 different values. And you might go, what's that about? Well, it has to do in part how busy Google's servers are, maybe how busy the server is that's hosting the website. Could be network latency, could be DNS lookups, could be all kinds of things. So you can't just run this once and say, okay, that's it. Well, no, not really. You kind of need a matrix of scores. So when I do this, I run this test about 6 or 8 times, and then just look at the lowest score and the highest score and kind of take an average. That's more realistic from a data perspective. Does that all make sense so far?
Crystal clear.
Yeah. So this
Okay.
where it says lab data there, are those opportunities to gain time, or what's the lab data?
Oh, the lab data is running this because Google doesn't have enough real world data reported from, and where it comes from is the Chrome browser. The Chrome browser reports this data
Okay.
to the Google mothership, and they collect it. It's anonymized, but this is saying that. Well, the top part is saying, actually, this part here is with the gray bars. What that's indicating is that Google doesn't have enough information, real world, actual user information. So to answer your question, the lab data is this bottom part where it's running a bunch of tests and they're making some assumptions that users are doing things in a certain amount of time, and
Okay.
they're making assumptions about their network speed and things like that, what kind of browser they're running. So that's the difference there. It's pretty common to find sites with very little or no field data at all. So you're just going by the lab data. So that's what that means. There's more information to this. But one thing I wanted to point out is you see these gray dots? Those are things that don't need any attention at all. So we like seeing that. That's cool. Don't want to see red. That's bad.
Gray is good.
Yeah.
So this is fantastic. And Erin, I like how you said, it's challenging, but it can be easy. And Eric, I love how you're laying this out because, just a few notes I took down, so again, just kind of recap, what Google's looking for is like loading, how fast are you responding, the interactivity on the website, and then the visual stability are kind of like the 3 bullet points. And again, like Google, we do these little fun e-commerce trainings. We talk about, taking advantage like Google Search Console, the page speed tool. These are great, fantastic tools available to everybody. And again, our favorite word, free, so they're at our disposal, and it just, can be daunting, overwhelming, or intimidating. Like, what is this? But Eric, I love how you're kind of laying it out. And just, if you just go through it methodically, or, partner with an expert like yourself, you can, help entrepreneurs get through these tasks.
Right, and I want to show you another tool too. I was going to hopefully switch back and forth between tabs, but we can't do that with Reno for some reason today. It's being belligerent. But it's letting us share this. This is also a very popular test used among developers. In fact, this web page test was actually developed by Google and was only recently acquired by Cashpoint. So it's Google's basic stuff. Now, here's what's really interesting. Look at those letters along the top, B-A-A-A. Well, looking at this, you go, oh my God, we are headed to college. That looks great.
Man, that looked like my report card in college.
Exactly. I'm sure it did.
There you go.
It's missing some pluses,
my
right?
my 2.3 didn't equal that. So
this page gives even more technical information about this, but the most interesting thing about this from a developer's perspective, it's what's called this waterfall. Now this, I wouldn't expect a user to know what this means, and that's okay.
It's scary. That looks scary.
Well, you look at this, go, oh my God, your eyes glaze over, and I don't know what that is. Well, I'll just tell you briefly what it is. This is showing every single resource as it loads from the very start of the page, from the very start, the DNS lookup. That's a little turquoise color there. To the connecting of the server, the SSL handshake, and then loading the base page. That's line number 1 there.
That's
and then the whole cascade of things that happen as a page is loaded. So when things are lined up in a vertical orientation here, like 12, I don't know if you can even read that, lines 12 through 36, those are all files that are loading simultaneously. So you've got a whole bunch of things going on all at once. With the HTTP2 protocol, we can load lots of things at once. That's what servers do. That's one of the reasons the web is so fast nowadays. It's pretty cool. And why we can build sites with hundreds and hundreds of resources, and you really don't even notice because it's all zipping down the line really fast. So the types of data that are loaded are these little color bars at the top of the graph: HTML, JavaScript, CSS, fonts. I'm going to point out fonts especially because that's an interesting one. Flash. If you've got Flash on your page, you should get your wrist slapped. Shouldn't be having that going on. Then as you look down the waterfall, and again, waterfall is just a term. It means how the stuff is coming in, how the files are being loaded. There's little indicators in here about what's happening. So what we see here, this little kind of orange circle with the X, that is what's called a render blocking resource. In other words, the page won't even be rendered. Rendered means started to be painted on the screen. That particular file is blocking display of the page. And that's not necessarily bad. Maybe your framework needs that to paint the page. If it didn't have it, your page would be a total disorganized mess until it loads. So that's not necessarily wrong, but it's something that Google is calling out. It tells you exactly what file and how long it took and things like that.
And Eric, we're having, just so Don, just so you guys know, we're having a pop quiz on all this at 2:15.
That's right.
So Eastern time. So guys, I hope you're watching closely.
So yeah, Curt's going to buy you a beer or a tea or whatever, ice cream.
Good luck, Gary.
Now, there's a few other things that are interesting. This little multicolored bar, this is pulling resources from another site. You might think, well, what's going on there? That's kind of weird. Why are we pulling in things from other sites? And probably the most common thing is fonts. Google fonts are used a lot, quite a lot. And so it's pretty common for a style sheet to be calling a font off of Google Fonts, but that requires another lookup. And then the site has to go fetch the fonts from Google's servers, which could be improved. That's not the absolute quickest thing you can do, but Google servers are pretty quick. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if the speed is good. In this case, it's 490 milliseconds, which is less than half a second. That's pretty fast. What you should look for, though, is if you have a lot of fonts that are not used or just too many fonts. So here, these little red ones, these guys, are web fonts. That one is Open Sans Italic. So we see that we have, let's see, 3, 4, 5 fonts. Not a whole lot, but do you really need 5 fonts? Maybe you can use 4 fonts. And each of these files is relatively large. Let's say here somewhere, 14K. So just that one font file is 14K. So if you don't need it, you can strip out some of these things and make it faster. Then when you get all the way down to the waterfall, you might see some other things like, and this page doesn't have any because it's constructed properly, but if you were missing some images, you'd have what's called the infamous 404. You have a big red bar through there. You go, oh, we got to fix that right away. So this is some of the things you can learn from the waterfall. There's many other tabs here with all sorts of other cool information, which we don't really have time for. It's probably a 2-hour webinar just for that. So that's kind of the really super basic walkthrough.
Nice.
It's really interesting how when you break down the performance of a web page, there are so many things that developers can do to optimize it. And, and especially if someone has a legacy site that they've had around for a while, and maybe they've changed a lot of fonts or done a lot of things to it, I'm sure there's a lot of garbage that you find that builds up over time.
Oh yeah. One of the things we see a lot is that when developers build a site initially, everything's all optimized, it looks cool, the images are right sized. Then as the user kind of goes along, they take some enormous image and they drop it into a slider, and it's like 3 inches wide, and the thing's like 3,000 pixels. We're just going, whoa, that is way too big. And so over time, things can kind of, atrophy. It can kind of go bad.
That makes a good point. So should people be looking at this over time and then re-optimizing their site every once in a while?
Yeah, I wouldn't get too obsessive about it, but if you have changeable content, and where we see this typically is with images, people are, well, this particular site, in fact, was uploading images that were 150 dpi, which is twice as dense as you need. So actually, those images were 4 times the size that were needed for the web. You get no more quality from putting out a much bigger image. It doesn't fake to get worse quality because it's got to be reduced and it's slower. So those are the kinds we see a lot.
Right.
Maybe WordPress sites, if the user adds an extension themselves and they don't really pay attention to this, that can really affect performance. So I wouldn't get too crazy about it, but it should probably go on a calendar to check these things a couple times a year. Yeah.
So Don, we have some good comments in the chat box going here. So Don can't take the pop quiz. His dog ate his notes. So Don, you will let you, we love dogs. So we're going to let you go on that one. And he said, if this is basic, I'm in trouble. But I think a great takeaway, Eric, here, especially for folks, like, man, this is high level stuff here, but a great takeaway for folks, let's not be, overwhelmed. We're here to have a good time, but think about this, especially for our manufacturers out there, Chris, we were just on a call this week. We're talking about, manufacturers that are challenged. Maybe they've been burnt by bad pay-per-click situations. Damon, we've had case studies on this program where people have spent, high 5 figures up to 6 figures and completely burnt on their website or marketing initiative or what have you. And so the thing is, first off, you want to align with somebody that you trust. And there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So if you're doing it yourself, it's great to, learn these, jump on podcasts and capture some of this information on your own. In the same regard, it's great to align yourself with a firm like Earthling Interactive that knows exactly how to conquer these tasks. I was on a call this week where the designer, had no idea about SEO. He's like, I'm just a web designer. I don't know anything about SEO. And that's a very dangerous place to be for a firm to hire if you're ignoring SEO. So I think that's why this was such a great exercise. It doesn't have to be daunting, doesn't have to be overwhelming, but there's a lot of great tools and resources to help you. And Greg says that happens a lot. Erin, what were you going to say?
Well, no, right along with that is I was sort of thinking of another analogy. Dr. Google, and this is Dr. Google's lab report that you get here. And so you can, let's say you go, have a sore shoulder, and I go to the doctor and they give me lab report. Well, this is what's wrong with you. So you can do these exercises, but more likely they're going to send me to a PT, a physical therapist. And that physical therapist is going to give me very specific exercises based on their knowledge and their understanding. They're going to break it down for me exactly how I should move my arm. That's what a developer is for you with your website. So Google gives you your lab report, and then you need to go and work with a developer. Now, of course, we can get really into the weeds on this but that's where the value is, right? That's the expertise. The important thing to keep in mind is that you recognize these things matter and you're not afraid of them, and you have some methods to play this game, which is the internet. And so that's why we wanted to do this for folks today. I mean, it's overwhelming. I get it. I start to have a hard time myself, but when it comes to e-commerce, this is so critical. You have so many files on your e-commerce site because you want to have images. You have such a high demand for user experience in e-commerce because we've talked about user experience, right? One bad user experience can wreck how many sales. Right. And so this is about being found, certainly, but it's about how you do your customer service. It helps you there as well. So just trying to bring it back down to earth.
Yeah, and I love what you just said, as we have Dr. Eric and Dr. Erin in the house today. But Chris dropped a great comment. She just ran a bunch of tests, and I love what you're saying, Chris Harrington, our dear friend from Gen Alpha.
Yep.
She says there's a lot of great resources, opportunities for improvement. Chris, that's why we love hanging out with you, because you're so half full. So instead of being half empty, like, oh man, I'm going to shut down, I'm overwhelmed, there are just so many opportunities. And what Damon loves to preach in his presentations, you are never done. It's like going to the gym. It's like being on the treadmill. It goes over and over and over. I know we're running into time. We want to get back to the tables, but I just want to share this real quick about Earthling Interactive, our friends in Wisconsin. So what I love is like how you guys tackle a project, and then we'll spend a minute because I know we need to get back to the tables because people are dying to pick your brains today. But you guys, your web development process is so impressive. And again, you know, like we work with a lot of different companies, and hey, everybody, not saying anybody does it right or wrong, but you guys go through a strategic process where you dig into the personas. Val, our team, our folks in training, man, we dig deep into those personas. User stories, you do the wireframes, prototypes, architecture, risk analysis. Are you kidding me? Who does risk analysis? And you guys cover future state. So what I love is when you work with a firm and a team like Earthling Interactive, boy, they have your back. You have experts, the doctors are in the house where you're walking them through the entire process, as opposed to, we're just going to do, we're graphic artists. We'll do some web design. You figure out SEO on your own, or, hey, we'll throw up a little Shopify store and you figure out. You're covering the whole gamut. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And for not just after launch as well. That's one of the things that happens. You know, I think Damon said you're always doing the work, and so many people think, oh, launch done. No, sorry, but it's your baby, and you got to take care of it, and it's going to stay a baby.
Yeah.
And we want to let folks know we're actually doing a beta version of a service on this. So the first person that contacts me and says, yeah, I'd like to just give this a go and have you tell me how we're doing on Core Vitals, that's going to be a free offering. So somebody reaches out to me, happy to walk it through your website.
Yeah, yep. Bonnie Strominger is just asking about stuff online, and that should be good to talk to you guys about that. But you know, the one thing that I tell business owners and the people that I talk to about websites anymore is we used to build them and forget them, right? And we just can't do that anymore. It is almost like your house where you've got to be, you know, you've got to keep investing in that thing and keep making sure that you're keeping up with everything, because, and some people still are not, right? You know, you'll look at some of them and the date's 10 years old, 5 years old. I just saw some the other day that were from the 90s, which is, yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
decade, Damon.
Yeah, nobody was born then. Many people weren't, you know, but it's still, it's one of these things that we have to, there are investments that need to be made. And like Eric said, and you were saying, there's so many changes done on an e-commerce website. You're always adding this and adding that, and not optimizing that thing to make sure it's fast, I think is just one basic thing that people can do to keep them going. And the second thing is, I can't tell you how many people that I've run into in the last year that have had someone that is not cheap, and in terms of website design, I mean, talking tens of thousands of dollars, that the developer did not even tell them about SEO, and they did not know. And we're years later seeing the websites with absolutely no SEO, and some even where they've not even allowed Google to crawl the site. I mean, you really have to understand, and Curt makes a great point about you guys and developing the websites the way that you guys do. It is more than just making something pretty that comes up.
Right.
That's web development malpractice.
Right.
It is almost, yes.
Which is rampant. And, you know, it's understandable because, you know, if anybody really can make a website these days. Yeah. And so it seems like a service you can get into, but a good website is a level of expertise that you want to invest in. So.
Yeah.
It's your first line of defense. It is the first impression. It's the first thing anybody's going to see about you. Damon, you do a great job. You know, Google yourself, Google your company, Google, you know, your products and services. It's the first thing. So again, our manufacturers are doing a great job. As our friend Chris Harrington says, we're not going to be half empty. We'll be half full. Lots of opportunities. So again, if you feel a little bit behind the 8 ball or you're a little behind the game, no worries. There's tons of resources. We have Paul Kishe, we have Greg Mishu, we have the team at Gen Alpha, we have the team at Earthling Interactive, all sorts of resources. We work a lot with the MEPs, the SBDCs. Speaking of that, Damon, we better wrap up because we need to get Eric.
Yeah, we got to go, man.
We got to get them back to the table. So, guys, let's wrap up on this. First off, Dr. Erin, Dr. Eric, man, I'm like depressed that this is over. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. Erin, Eric, thank you. Damon, next week, we're not going to be here next Friday. Everybody, you go off and spend time with your families. You enjoy Labor Day weekend. You guys deserve it. Have a look. If you guys want to hang out, just text me, call me. I'll be around. We're taking next Friday off. You guys go out, spend time with your families. This Monday, Damon, we're interviewing Sarah from Temple University Small Business Development Center. We're doing a 10-part e-commerce webinar series with Temple. Damon just crushed it on Wednesday. We've got Ray Zagato coming up next in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Nice.
yay.
So, guys, so again, connect with Eric and Erin on LinkedIn. Our hearts are out to everybody. Stop being the best kept secret. Erin, Eric, we love you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you for sharing your time, your passion, your expertise. Everybody go out there, crush it. Have a killer weekend. Damon, take it away, my brother.
All right. Well, Bonnie's got a couple questions for us on LinkedIn, but I tell you what, Bonnie, I'll respond to those in the comments in the LinkedIn post. But Eric did talk about that in Google Core Vitals. If it's above 75%, you're doing well. So we're going to go back to the tables now and be ready to go. I'm going to turn it off on LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm kind of all messed up today because I just realized that we're off next week and I'm excited about this. It's like a holiday week and I'm
out. I'm still going to be here, just hanging out anyway.
yeah. I mean, we're just Curt and I are going to hang out. We get on this every Friday anyway, whether we do it or not. So,
okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us
Thank
on
you, guys.
LinkedIn.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Erin.
We're going back to the
Thanks,
table.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.